So yes, well, welcome everybody who's watching the recording, who's just coming in. Super excited to have you here. We just got back. I just got back from leading a trip for men. It was a wilderness adventure trip for men, and it was awesome.
It was
It
so
was
manly.
so manly, cool. And we just had some great conversations. Read a great book together. We talked about being men and being our best selves, about marriage, about parenting, just leveling up in every area of life, things that are working and things that aren't working, things we're struggling with. And man, it was awesome. We have some great adventures and it was incredible. So there are going to be lots more of those things coming along. It's going to be awesome. So, but let's share what you're working on. So Evan finishing the basement. Nice, man. Yeah. Starting a general contracting business. Nice. Way to go. That's a fantastic. Working on a small family business with my wife and kids. So you got a lot going on, brother. That's a lot, man. That is awesome. I love it. Keep it up. That's fantastic. You have to be optimized. In fact, we all do, my friends. We all have to be optimized, right? Because we have so much going on. We have so many roles, so many responsibilities, so many things to do. We got to get our lives just dialed in. Otherwise, we are going to be bombarded and overwhelmed and become really ineffective, if you know what I mean, right? Where we don't end up doing anything very well. And that is just no fun at all.
Well, and
Emily's turning 40 in a couple of days.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Welcome
Man,
to
you're
the club.
young. Gosh. Wow.
I was just going to say, just to share that we practice what we preach. And I also realized this weekend, because Greg was off on a man's trip and I was at home with the kids, which is great. But we had a little girl, our youngest, who hurt her leg right before Daddy left. And she was quite, you know how, when the little ones are sick and oh, sorry, distraction. Can't get into the email via the emailed link. Anyone else have that problem? Anyways,
they wouldn't be here.
Do you have that problem? You would not be here if you were having that problem. We'll have to check that. Anyway, so she was not feeling well, and so she was very, demanding, pretty much. She needed lots of help. She had to be carried because her leg was hurting, and so she couldn't walk. And it threw off all of my routines. So I did not. So from the time Greg left Friday morning, I did not do a morning routine. I didn't work out. I didn't do any reading, meditating, like all my normal stuff that I usually do. And so I'm saying.
Let me translate what this means here. This family falls apart without me. Yeah, that's what's going on.
Much. I think it was extra because she was not feeling well, and I would have to get up with her in the night because her leg was hurting and all these things. So it was extra. Okay.
A lot extra.
Not saying I can't handle it, babe. Come on. I can't handle it. Just kidding. So, but the point being is that I felt a major difference. I can feel a major difference when I stop doing the small things. And I'm not just talking about, I don't know, whatever, being off. I'm talking about like, I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like doing anything. I lose motivation. I lose drive. I lose passion. I lose excitement. I'm kind of just like, I think I'll just watch 27 episodes of a show. I did not watch 27 episodes.
I was like, what?
Right? But that's what you feel like doing. It's easy to fall off the motivation and the passion just by not doing the small, simple things. And then what happened is I finally got to bed early Monday night, right? And got up and did my morning routine Tuesday morning. I felt like 20 times better. Okay, just that one simple thing. Now, all of these things, all the things we teach, they're all little puzzle pieces, right? Okay, you want to live an extraordinary life. Well, all of these things are puzzle pieces. And so the more puzzle pieces you have in place, the more power you have, right? The more motivation, the more energy, the more excitement, like all of that stuff that you want in your life, the happiness, the joy, the love, the excitement, the all of that. You have more of that when you put more of the pieces in place. Now, we don't necessarily realize that until we actually start putting pieces in place. And then we're like, wow, this makes a difference. And then if we stop doing it and you're like, I can tell the difference. I feel different. And if that happens to me when I've been trying to do this stuff for like 20 years, I know it's happening to everybody. You have to remember that the small things make a difference. And I didn't figure this out for a long time. Like, I know that now and I can spot it and I know exactly what's going on. I remember I would go through this pattern, right? Remember? I'd go through this pattern in our years of married life.
This has brought back all these memories.
Yeah.
You know what we'd say to each other early on in our marriage? We'd stop and go, oh, we need some input.
Yeah,
you need
that's
some
what
input.
we would say.
Or she'd say, you need some input, right? Because we always have operated on this idea that input determines output. So whenever we start feeling off, whenever we start feeling grumpy or irritable or ineffective, we'd pause
like
and go,
chronically,
wait a minute, we need some input.
Just chronically unmotivated or chronically feeling stuck or just chronically like, I just can't handle life. Whenever we would feel that way, it would take us some time back then because we weren't as astute, and we'd be like, what's going on here? Like, why can't I just do this? Like, why am I just crying? And why am I, all this? And we would say, you know what? You need some input, meaning, oh, you haven't been doing any morning routines. And I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't been doing morning.
And it reading some great books. You haven't been listening to great books. You haven't been consuming great stuff that lifts you and inspires you and reminds you of all the great things you need to be doing.
Yeah. So now I recognize it and I pick it up right away. And I'm like, I haven't done my morning routine for like 2 or 3 days. No wonder I feel so off. No wonder I don't want to do anything except, the easy stuff, like watching shows or, scrolling on Instagram. It makes a big difference. And we're telling you and we teach, and that's why we're here, is because we know, we're like saying, guys, this is what it's like. We promise, and we're telling you because we go through the same thing. When we don't do it, we feel the difference. That's all I wanted to say.
Amen.
Amen.
Woo! On a Wednesday evening or a Thursday morning in Australia. Oh man. So let's see. So Emily's telling her kids you're young. Good.
Yep,
Keep it up.
Right.
Keep it up.
40 years young.
Look,
that's right.
I want to live to be like 120, you guys. I'm going for it. So at 40, you're only 30 your way through, man. You got a long way to go, my friend.
I've been reading some stuff this week that would blow your mind about talking. I can't even go there. It's just too crazy. But living to 120 or 150. Yeah, that's where the technology is going. Now, if you guys were in the education coaching we did last week, where we went about the future and all the exponential changes that are occurring, that's what's happening. That's what's coming. Long life is going to be a real thing.
Cool stuff, you guys. Exciting things are happening. Okay, let's see. Evan said, implemented a whole set of family systems starting the beginning of this year that is enabling all these projects you're doing. It works, doesn't it, brother? It works, man. You put the systems in place, my friends, and you're able to do way more with less stress. I tell all my coaching clients that. I'm going to help you get so dialed in that you can do far more with less stress. It's amazing, but it's all around the systems. And we've talked about this before in here. When the systems are off, you're living in perpetual self-sabotage and you're wondering why it's so hard. Yeah.
I was in self-sabotage, but I want to just emphasize one little point. Sometimes it's more stress, but you have more recovery. There's a cycle you have to go through of increased stress is a good thing because stress helps you grow. Just like if you're lifting weights or something, you're stressing the muscle to help it grow. So you actually want more stress, but you need more recovery. What most of us do instead is we're just stress. No recovery, and that's why we burn out. But if you increase stress and increase recovery, then you can do more with less chronic stress.
Yep. And it gets easier because when you're fighting, remember we talked about the life wheel? If you're missing a whole bunch of spokes on your life wheel, oh man,
You're just
it's hard. So
plonking along.
stress feels so hard, it's so miserable. Okay, let's see. Yale said, trying to get on top of 10 loads of laundry. Holy guacamole, you must have as many kids as we do. Hey, I'm gonna give you a little pro tip here. Get your older children doing laundry. Teach those kiddos, train them up, man. Get the older kids doing laundry, have that be their responsibilities. Working on lifelong running background patterns. Someone's been extremely triggering. Okay, good. 2 kids start new school, and there's more. Yeah, all kinds of stuff going on. There's always more, right? Love it. Okay, I got some great stuff to cover tonight, or this morning, depending on where you are, or whenever it is you're watching it. But first of all, can I get everybody to move a little bit? Let's move. Come on, you gotta move your body. Some of you are kind of sitting there like doing this thing. Oh, just move a little bit because it makes you feel good. Yeah, right? Get the jumping jacks in. Oh, sometimes we just are so like this. I'm gonna actually do a quick posture lesson. Sometimes we kind of roll our shoulders forward and kind of drop our heads, and we're kind of doing life like this. Anybody feel this? And you're just like, oh man. And now everyone turns off their, come on, turn your cameras on. All y'all, turn your cameras on so I can see you. So even if you have your camera off, I know I can tell Alicia or Joseph or Emily, you guys gotta move.
If you're moving,
I can tell if you're moving or not. But posture matters because the way we carry our body is often the way we do things. Right? So if I'm slouchy and tired and kind of blah, then I do blah things. But when I can roll my chest up and my shoulders back, I can stand up straight and smile and be energized. It's going to bring energy to what I'm doing. So it makes a difference. Okay. Are you ready?
There's a direct connection to the posture in your body and your feelings. In fact, it produces neurochemicals.
Yep. It actually changes your biochemistry. Here's a comment in the chat. Okay, camera's broken this time. It was humbling watching my kids do an insanity workout. So that you guys, that's a hit workout video you do. They have videos and you do the workout. That's so fun. We have great memories as a family doing those. In fact, we did them when we were at Bacalar, which is a lagoon. It's a freshwater lagoon of 7 colors. And we lived right on the shore for like 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. And every night we would do an insanity workout and just drenched in that, tropical humidity. And we'd go dive into the lagoon and wash off. It was just so wonderful. So she's been watching the kids do an insanity workout with you in the morning. And I was dying and they were racing each other.
Those kids.
Yeah, nice. Okay, Alicia is doing a sewing project. All right. This is moving too, Alicia, but it's not like this. Just teasing. Okay, here you go. Are you ready? I had some thoughts as I was thinking about this awesome group of human beings in our tribe here. I had some important thoughts. And it comes up often in coaching sessions or opportunities where I get to just meet with groups of people or individuals and have these meaningful conversations. And what's really fascinating to me is how often we fail to go back to just basic fundamentals and how missing those foundational pieces of our life pyramid, we're missing those foundational pieces, we fail. And it's not like our fault necessarily. It's not anybody's fault. It's just like, oh, you're missing this piece. And when you have gaps in your foundation, then it's hard to be succeeding. It's hard to win when there's gaps. One of the interesting things that keeps popping up consistently is this simple thing. And I want you to do it right now. So I hope they have you something to write with. So I want you to jot down a few thoughts and then I want you to share. So you can do it in on paper or in a document. But I want you to jot down this simple question. How do you define success? How do you define success? And I want you to write that down.
Because it's different for everyone.
Because it's totally different for everyone. But here's the thing. You and I can never, ever know if you're succeeding if you've never defined success. Let that hit home. You will never know if you're succeeding or not if you have never defined success. It'll always seem vague. You'll always be chasing it. You'll never know if you're succeeding because you never actually defined it. And you're constantly, I see this all the time, constantly looking back and forth at other people. Oh, they're doing that. I'll try that. They're doing that. I'll try that. And it may not work for you because their success is different.
Or as moms, I know that we can go through the whole day and like get a lot of stuff done, but because we didn't get everything done, or we still have 10 loads of laundry to do, right? Or like, I'm a failure. I didn't do anything. I didn't get anything done, instead of focusing on what we actually did. I used to do this, and I think it's actually a legitimate thing. Like sometimes I would go through the day and I'd look at my list and I'm like, oh, I didn't get this stuff done. But then I would add the things I did actually do and then check them off because I did get those things done.
And you get hit
and I think
in
when
endorphins.
you get this hit of endorphins. And I think it's important that we do that we identify what we do actually do. Now, that doesn't mean we can't make improvements if we want. If you look at your list and you're like, okay, that, I did that stuff, but I would have rather have done these other things because they were more important. But acknowledging what you have done and rewarding yourself in some way, celebrating that in some way, is one of the first steps to making this improvement and becoming more successful, right? By identifying what you are already doing that is successful, because you are doing things that are successful. If you weren't, you would be like dead and your kids would be dead, right? Like you wouldn't be
and
here.
You wouldn't be here.
So you are succeeding in life in some way. So what are those things that you are succeeding at? You need to write those down and recognize that. In fact, one exercise I did once with a mentor of mine was they had us go and write up this whole, it was instead of a resume, right? Because resumes are kind of lame. It was this list of accomplishments that you've made. And it would be everything like, I've given birth 6 times, I adopted a child. Yeah, that's right. Birth.
Hey, superhero.
Yeah. And just anything that I had done that I found, thought was worthwhile in any way. I just wrote out this whole thing. Well, I actually typed it up and made it look pretty and printed it out and stuff. But it was my list of accomplishments. And it's important, especially if we want to succeed in life, which we do. Wanting to succeed in life is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like sometimes we have this idea that success is bad or wrong, or, just accept what is. Succeeding in life is part of our purpose. We want to succeed in life. And we need to start by recognizing what we have already succeeded at. That was
Is it just me, or do any of you ever feel like being a preacher sometimes and pounding a pulpit? You know what I'm talking about? Right now,
you do that.
Right now, I feel like pounding a pulpit and be like, you people were born to succeed. Let's go. Come on. We're not here to just sit around. You're winners, right? But Miriam pointed out something so important. Thank you, Miriam. Celebrating successes is hard for some of us. In fact, I would take that a little further and say it's hard for most of us.
But I would agree with that, except I think you need to learn how to do it in a way that is easy. In fact, Tony Robbins, he taught us this thing that we do. I still do it. I don't know if you do. I do it all the time. He's like, or it was actually the guy that was there, Joseph
McClendon.
He was this funny guy that was teaching. And he's like, you have to just celebrate the small things. So you just do something like this. I did that. Or you walk through a door and you're like, yes, thank you. Okay. And we think that's silly and stupid, but again, back to this whole body language thing, when you move your body in certain ways, this is proven, like scientifically proven, to put you in a state of power.
Try it. Do it right now. Try it. You guys
feel powerful. You feel successful when you stand like this. All of them just
wait. Nobody's doing it. Let's go, people.
Come on, do you want to succeed
there you go.
or not? Yeah. Let's go, people.
Oh, I got this. Come on, I can see you, people. I know. Even if your camera's on, I see you. Do
Wonder it. Wonder Woman, Superman. This is proven to make you feel powerful and successful when you stand like this.
Yeah.
So when you do anything, like I don't know, whatever. I cleaned something up. I washed the dishes. Whatever. I did that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go, Shannon. That's right. Dang straight. You better watch out. I just changed the diaper. Yeah.
Okay. So celebrating our successes, it doesn't have to be like, dinner and a movie. Like that could be it too. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can take 5 seconds to be like, yeah, I did that.
And on that note, it's interesting. Some of us have a hard time maybe making the list, like Rachel was talking about, of writing down the things we've done well, the things we've accomplished. It's so easy to focus on our failings. Who's with me on this? So easy to focus on our failings and to not acknowledge where we're winning. And so in our minds, we have this huge list of our shortcomings and this tiny little list of things we do well. And that's not humility. That's beating ourselves up. It's interesting. One time, you kind of related here. Somebody one time said years ago, and it really struck me. There's 2 kinds of hypocrisy: pretending to be more than we are and pretending to be less than we are. Mm-hmm. And man, sometimes we play this less than game. So I want to invite you to celebrate those successes. And what's also interesting is high achievers, people who are really driven like you guys and like us. We're high achievers. You're high achievers. High achievers often discount their wins because they always have this big target. They're always going after something. And so they don't take time to go, that was awesome. Way to go, self. Let's go. Let's keep this going. Right? Okay. So I would like you to share. Actually, we haven't even given you time yet. We're gonna actually stop talking here for a minute or two. I just want you to define success. I know you've been writing it. Just write down a couple more thoughts. Just jot it down. How would you define success? And I want to hear from a lot of you. And I've purposely left this vague. Like, are we talking about family? Are we talking about business? Are we talking about finances? Are we talking about, what are we talking about? I'm not going to give you boundaries. I want you to define it. If you're like, I am successful, write that down. What does that look like? We need a DJ to play some inspiring tunes.
Like Rachel Hollis's DJ at her event. He was like fun. The best DJ ever.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's start sharing. And if you're still writing, please keep writing. And as you read or hear things that other people in the group share, feel free to add to your list. Okay, feel free to add to your list. Here we go. Roll back up here. One way that I would define success, this is from Laura, is by finishing something I start. Bam, beautiful. Finishing something I start. That actually for me was something I struggled with. I'm an idea guy. Love having new ideas. And for a while I struggled to finish something I started. I always liked starting new things. And I really had to work through that. Whether it's a project or achieving a goal that I set or completing something I committed to do, just finishing. I would also say that success would be making real positive change and being about to identify what that change is. Love it. Fantastic. Great. Love that, Evan. That? You got some? Go for it.
That's good. Well, I think this is great. I love this. This is also something that I definitely define as success, like just being someone who completes things. But I also know that sometimes then that would mean I would feel a day was not successful because I didn't complete anything. I didn't finish anything.
Ooh, good insight.
So I had to change that definition of success where yes, I want to finish, I'm working on a goal, but if I at least made progress on it that day, that was a success. If I was able to even sometimes, I mean, more progress is better, but sometimes if I spent 2 minutes on a goal of mine or 2 minutes working on a project that I'm trying to complete, that was success because I made progress. So when we talk about celebrating successes, like sometimes that's what we have to look at because we are busy and we're, we've got kids and we've got all this other stuff going on, which are successes on their own. But if we've got some big goal we're working on or something we're trying to achieve,
and there's lots of
and
interruptions,
we can't feel successful until we've done that, we'll never feel successful. And the irony is that most people, when they actually achieve and accomplish those big goals and dreams, that's not really where the feeling of success comes from. Real success comes from the process of working on the goal. That's when you feel the most fulfillment. That's when you feel the most joy. That's when you feel the most alive, is while you're working on the goal, not once you get it. Because once you get it, people will tell you this all the time, you lose that feeling. And it only comes back when you have something else that you're working on. So it's the working on it, it's on the progress on it that actually brings the most success and fulfillment if we allow ourselves to recognize it and celebrate it.
Nice. Love that. So celebrate the small wins and successes along the way. Thank you for all having your cameras on. You people are handsome and beautiful. This is awesome. So if my goal were to lose 30 pounds, I wouldn't establish in my mind, like, I'm only successful after I've lost 30 pounds. I'm going to celebrate every great workout. I'm going to celebrate every time I don't eat junk and I eat something good. Those are all wins. I'm going to celebrate those wins along the way. So I'm celebrating the journey, not like I won't be happy with myself until the 30 pounds are gone.
Because what ends up happening is then you're still not happy with yourself.
And
even
so
when the 30 pounds
enjoy the
gone.
journey and celebrate every pound dropped. Boom, 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 right? And every great workout. Because then after 30 pounds are gone, you're going to keep working out and you're going to keep eating well. So keep celebrating that. Oh, this is good stuff. Okay. Yeah, Evan, that definition of humility. Love that, brother. Emily says, success is freedom. Amen. Yes, but we need more than that. That's a little too vague. Freedom for what? And that freedom
Kind
word
of
means
freedom.
it's different for everybody.
And because you are already free. So you're already.
Well, can I elaborate?
Yes, ma'am. We were waiting for you to turn that microphone on.
Sorry, I'm walking through the middle school hallway of parent-teacher conference, so I'm looking like a weirdo right now, but I'll elaborate real fast. I think my kids actually brought this definition to me the other day from your teen class that you do, Greg, when you were talking about success, but they said, they kind of narrowed it down to that simple: success is freedom. Because I think you can apply it in any area. So money, like financial wise, like if you have financial freedom to every person in your eating and your exercise, like freedom in your health, right? You have mastered that skill of eating healthy food, you mastered that skill of exercise. So it is a vague definition, but I feel like it kind of opens up the spectrum to kind of celebrating those wins along the way versus here's the only way that I'll be successful. But it definitely, I think you definitely do have to go in there and set very specific goals and narrow it down. But I never thought about that until my kids brought it to me and kind of explained it that way. So I kind of have adopted it too. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. I love that. And I love, so it kind of cut out a little bit. I don't know if you guys all heard that, but she's like, whether it's, if it's in finances, you have that freedom, financial freedom, you're winning. If it's in health and you have the freedom of a good, healthy, strong, energized body, you're winning. If you have this freedom inside a marriage to just be totally vulnerable and open and romantic and passionate, right, you're succeeding there. So it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And so if you take it each area of your life and it's like, what does freedom look like here? That's success. And so each of you could get that dialed in the details and describe it. What does freedom look like for you in that thing? And success is freedom. That's beautiful. Thanks, Emily. Love that.
I just want to point something out though that I find is very interesting is that very often freedom comes, whether it is financial freedom or physical freedom, like body health, or marriage freedom, like freedom comes from not having no rules, no guidelines, no expectations. Like we sometimes think that like, oh, if I just had nothing, I'd be free. When the more disciplined you are, the more consistency you have, the more routine, the more positive habits, right? All of these things that we sometimes feel are constraining to us, they actually bring more freedom. It's when you have good money habits that you actually have more money freedom. It's when you have more trust and like routines, right? Of whatever you're dating and all the things you do together to talk, to discuss intimacy, that you have more freedom in your relationship.
And making and keeping commitments brings more freedom.
It's when you work out every day and you eat healthy food and you're more disciplined about that you have more freedom. So more is more freedom.
So good. Discipline is freedom, my friends. Discipline is freedom. That's so good. Okay, let's keep going. Evan said, success to me is accomplishing any aim that I determine for myself, however big or small. Mm-hmm. Love that, Merda. You set a target and you get it. You set a target and you get it. It was Earl Nightingale said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. You just keep moving towards these targets you're aiming at.
And I think why that brings success is because we feel this sense of confidence. The more we do that, the more confidence we have in ourselves, because we know whatever I decide to do, I'm going to do it. Whether that's getting up early, whether that's making $1 million, whether that's, fixing my relationship. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. That's a huge measure of success, I think.
Yep. Good. So there's a comment here about the thought bringing up some grief. So it feels like a loaded question. I'm not sure exactly what thought we're referring
to what is success.
To what is success. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. That's what I was going to roll with. Which thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. This is the perfect group to share that. Like, hey, wait a minute, that kind of hurts for me. And maybe some other people in here felt the hurt. Like, hey, what's success? And you're like, oh boy. Right? It starts to hurt again. You with me? You've heard Rachel and me, you've heard us talk about emotional stacking. And we all do this. Consciously or unconsciously, we all stack. Who's with me on this? We all stack, right?
Well, maybe define.
Okay, so emotional stacking means like I have an experience and I grab it.
I feel a certain way.
I feel a certain way and I grab it and I hold on to it. And then it happens again and I take it and I stack it. And so let's say, I'm trying to find an example. I've tried working on my marriage. I've been working on my marriage.
But every time I talk to my wife,
I talk to my wife and it turns into a fight. Stack.
And I feel this way. And so that's anytime it comes up.
I tried to get my husband to, share this dream we have. And he just ignores me. Stack. And so we start piling up this evidence, right, for our case. And then what happens is when we're so stacked up that now just even the thought of trying to talk to her again, the thought of trying to lose weight, the thought of trying to get our finances in order.
This is what happened with us with exercise and me working out. Like Greg had a bunch of emotional stacking because I didn't work out.
I mean,
we've talked about this before.
It wasn't that much. It was only 19 years.
It wasn't 19 years. It was like 15 years because I just watched a video where we were talking about it, and that was like 2 years ago. So, but he did. We've talked about this before. And this is why.
You see that? Okay? I'm still stacking even after seriously. She's changed.
This is why he was out on his own when he was 16. His major outlet for frustration, depression, anxiety, any of his negative emotions, anything he was dealing with was exercise and working out. That was his outlet. So it naturally brought a lot of good things into his life. It got him healthy. He stopped junk food and sugar at that time. So he had positive emotional stacking. That's a good thing too. You can emotionally stack for positive things. In fact, that's the goal around exercise. Well, along I come and he interviews me on the phone before I've ever met him. And one of the questions is like, do you work out? And I'm like, not really. But I just thought he thought I looked good. You must work out because you look great.
And she's like, see, I don't even need to work out.
This was my thinking. I don't need to work out. I'm skinny. I'm naturally thin. Why would I have to work out? So we get married anyways, because
We get married anyways.
That sounded really funny.
Well, we got married anyways.
It was a lost cause, but we went for it. No, he says I met every other thing on his list except for the exercise. He just figured he'd be able to convince me. He'd be able to just make me work out. Well, we didn't understand what the things we understand now. And all it became was this emotional stacking. He would try to get me to work out and I would resist it. And the more I resisted, the more angry he would get about it. And this went on, like, we're not kidding you, 10 to 15 years where we couldn't even bring up exercise without. Are we going to talk about this again?
Oh boy.
Right? Emotional stacking. That was my example. What was the point? Where are we going?
Yeah, I'm wondering where you're going with this. And ironically, she had stacked against it before we met. She had a lot of emotional stacking against exercise from negative experiences she had. So it's just an example. So we stack and stack and stack.
That was basically the point. Okay. Anytime you then discuss that, anytime the word comes up, anytime you think about that, you're triggered because you have emotionally stacked and you have memorized the emotions around that thing. So you don't have to go through the experience again that you went through before to create those emotions. You just have to think about it and the emotions automatically come back because you've memorized them. So this case in point.
When I
the idea
ask
of
about success, it brings up grief.
There's been emotional stacking around the idea of whatever success means or doesn't mean,
or
in this case.
past failures.
Failures.
Who's had some past failures? Well, it looks like only 3 of us. Well, the rest of you, geez.
Get out there and fail.
Try something. We fail, right? And if we stack against ourselves and we only stack against ourselves, then as soon as we say, hey, what makes you feel successful? Grief, pain comes up.
Not successful.
Oh, I failed.
When actually failure is a form of success. In fact, you cannot succeed without failing.
But we need to process those emotions and start stacking in the opposite way. And again, that's why small celebrations matter. Every time you celebrate a small win, you're stacking in your right direction. Is that you with me on that? Every time I celebrate a win, I'm stacking for success. So whatever you want to succeed at, you've got to stack like crazy on the positive side. So make sure you're doing that all the time.
So what I would do in this case is go through why. Anytime you're triggered by an emotion, consider that a good thing. Because if you want to progress and change, which you do, in order to achieve what you want to achieve, you have to progress and grow. And the perfect way to know exactly what you need to work on changing is whatever triggers you.
Ooh.
So when I get triggered by something, I'm like, this is very interesting because this is what I need to change. This is what's standing in my way. This is what's blocking my progress. This is what's holding me back. So I recognize it as like a blessing. It's like a perfect, the obstacle is the way, right? whatever's there triggering you, that is the thing that is keeping you from making progress.
Is that true for anybody else? That when you feel triggered, you're like, oh, that's the thing I need to work on. Oh, okay, guess not.
That's what you're supposed to say is that is what's true. Start doing that.
So any of you here who, when we talk about these changes we can make, improvements, and you feel some grief or some pain, I want to invite you specifically to write down a list of all the good things you've done. Get that list of your successes. Make a list of your successes and look at it often. Remind yourself that you are a champ.
Well, and I would connect this in right here because later she puts seeing my children. So what success is, seeing my children grow up independent, established, confident, lovable beings.
Yes.
In that case, and I'm guessing there might be a connection there, right? With this idea of success and maybe grief. Write down the specific things where you have succeeded already in doing that.
And they don't have to be grown yet. Here's another good, perfect
Yeah.
example. If your success is when your kids are grown, some of us have a long way to go. Like we got a 3-year-old still. I'm like, great, I'll be happy when she's a successful adult. We got to celebrate those wins along the way.
Exactly.
Celebrate those wins along the way. Okay, let's keep going. So success for Mary, living within my true identity.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's beautiful. And do you feel like, Mary, you can just thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. Do you feel like you personally have a really clear idea of your identity? Do you feel like you're like, this is who I am and how I want to live?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I sometimes I wake up and my identity is like crazy mom or wife. And then I realize that like it's deeper than that. And it's the peace that I can have isn't every day, every moment. But when I sit down and really like understand where I've come from, and because I connect with God. So my identity is so much deeper than my success in school, my success as a mother. You know, those things don't really bring value. And the list kind of stresses me out. The gaps kind of stress me out. So I have to check in with my higher being, with God, in order to feel like I'm enough, I'm capable. Because my trigger is I'm not enough, I'm not capable enough, I'm not smart enough, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when I can check in with him, then I feel that peace and I feel that rest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's success. Like his success is totally different than what my success or what the world's success would label me as. Does that make sense?
Oh,
But I'm
so
still
much.
getting there. I'm still working on that.
Oh, Mary, you articulated that so beautifully. Thanks for
awesome.
sharing that.
Mhm.
And it's true.
Thank you.
It's grounding, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To tap into that. So you're right. And all this chaos and all the big list, we can stop and say, wait a minute. Like, who am I really?
Mm-hmm.
And that's special. And that's a spiritual inner peace that is so profound. Thanks
And then
for
your
sharing.
motivation to work out is more like respect and love for my body,
Mm-hmm.
because I realize it's a gift, you know?
Yeah.
So true. And whoa, what a contrast, right? Respect and love for this body, and like what a gift, what a blessing, what a privilege. I'm going to work out instead of shaming. Beating
Mhm.
myself up. I'm not enough. I'm terrible.
Or
This
just the external expectations or needing to look a certain way or whatever. Yeah. It's the love. I
Yeah.
love that.
Beautiful. Great insights. That was really special. Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it what I was thinking of, it made me think of I reread this book that I've talked about before called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and he talks specifically about that. In fact, he uses this example of like hands. Have you got to that part yet? And he calls it closing the gap, where basically who you really are, who you truly are, your real identity the goal is to close the gap between that and like the outside persona of who you act like. Not that we're acting, but just that we're in the chaos of life and we're in, we're in it. And sometimes we just do things or say things or live in a way that's not matching up with our true identity. And so the goal is to try and close that gap so that who we truly are and who we act like and who we be.
Who we be. That's tonight's
Our-
message. Who we be.
Our son, Kimball, just started an Instagram channel for playing guitar. And his tagline, you know how I be. That's fun. Anyways. Yeah, who we be.
Close the gap.
Close the gap.
It's beautiful. And that's a beautiful working definition of success, isn't it? Closing the gap and just really leaning into,
Which is basically what she's saying,
Right.
living with my true identity.
yeah, who we really are. So this lines up with the next one. Miriam wrote this: being at peace with myself, focusing on the positive, feeling the feelings of joy and love, and not just pushing through in survival mode, which, oh my goodness, a lot of us slip into survival mode. It's tough. It's a reality with so many demands on us. It's easy to slip into survival mode, and then we're just kind of existing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. And so we got to pause. We got to hit the pause button there and find ways to snap out of it and recover quickly. So get back to that peaceful, joyful, loving place. Pushing myself to be uncomfortable and reaching beyond my limits. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting though, too, that there's almost a contrast here of not just pushing through survival mode, but pushing beyond your comforts to reach your abilities. So it's not like the struggle goes away. True success is it's not no struggle. It's not just
Perhaps it's
sitting
embracing the struggle.
Embracing the struggle, but I think embracing it in a different sort of way, like embracing it with a feeling of purpose behind it, right? I've often thought that, like, depending on the state of mind we're in, we could be doing the exact same things, but it has a totally different meaning to us. We could be surviving or we could be thriving by doing the same activities. It's not that the activities themselves necessarily change. Sometimes they do.
Sometimes it's just this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this stuff is good. You people are brilliant. I love it. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being awesome. Yael's sharing a second piece here. And this is beautiful. Establishing myself in my calling and having clarity around that.
I like that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you guys are amazing. You're amazing. I bet you don't get told that enough. In fact, I bet most of what you hear is little people making demands on you.
And not saying you're amazing.
Yeah.
You are my servant.
I need more stuff from you. You're like, you little thing, good thing you're cute and I love you. I am successful as Nathan. I am successful when I'm able to work on and make progress on something I want to
Wait,
do.
hold on. Sorry, I want to go
Okay.
back 1 second because I was going to say something. I want to point that out because I think that's very true. All of you, all of us, we do have a calling. We have something that is uniquely ours to do. Now, we don't always realize that or think about it, and we're definitely not taught that. Okay. My belief is that should be the goal of education. Education should be about helping people discover and live their callings, their life mission, their purpose. We're not taught that. We're taught you go to school so you can get a job. We should go to school so we can discover our calling, right? But all of us have it. And the reason why we often struggle with feeling not successful or feeling unfulfilled or feeling off or stuck is because we are not pursuing our calling. We don't have to like totally achieve it, just like we've been saying. But when you're pursuing your calling, that's when you feel alive. That's when you feel successful. I just wanted to add that. Now,
And it's so gratifying and so fulfilling.
And okay, and then that ties in with Nathan's, I think, when I'm able to work on and make progress on something I want to do. That is a clue. The things you want to do, the things you feel excited about doing, those are clues to what your life purpose and calling are. We should not ignore those things.
Well,
Well,
the things that come from inside, not I just want to sit around watching TV all the time because I think watching football is my calling in life. Not that stuff.
yes, I guess I should
It's-
clarify that
it's
because
the-
I know what that means when I'm saying that.
Right.
The things that call to you, right? The things that you just feel passionate
Like,
about.
this is my
doing.
life's work.
Not a passive things I want to do, but the active, passionate, exciting things you want to do.
Ooh, that's good. Okay, third one here from you. The ability to be location independent and travel with my family if the world opens.
It is opening. There are places.
Yes,
I've
we
been looking.
we are planning trips to open countries, you guys.
Yeah,
So
to
we'll
open
take
countries.
the ones that are open. We're just
Exactly.
happy some of them are open. We're heading out. Love it. Let's see. Okay, Heather says I have to get my novel published or it will be a major regret. I've failed for years to move beyond writing it because there's so much to learn and I want it perfect. Ooh, we can
There
relate
it
to that.
is.
There it is. We can relate to that.
Perfection.
And yes, we want it to be perfect. Let's remove that word perfect because those of us who, well, let's raise some
Done
hands
is better
here.
than perfect.
How many of you struggle with some perfectionism? Yeah, a lot of that is based around, most often I find it's based around fear of the opinions of others, fears of what other people will think. So let's remove that word perfect and let's just make it great. Make it great. Like I'm all about doing things in a great way and committing to excellence. So remove the perfect because it's never going to be perfect and just say, I'm going to make it great. It's going to be great. And then I'm going to hit done because I've got to get this thing published. If you never ship it off to the publishers, it'll never get published and you will regret it. It'll be a major regret.
But at the same time, you finished writing it. So success. Celebrate that. Say, yeah, I did that.
And finish revising.
Well, I have to finish. Sorry.
Oh, I have. Oh, sorry.
Celebrate the finished writing it
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
And then yes, then the next thing is success comes by taking the steps. Like just take the steps and that's success. Figure out, okay, what exactly do I need to do to revise it? What do I have to do to edit it? What do I have to do? What's the next step to getting it published?
And just
If that's
work on
just
that. and
research
celebrate.
on finding a publisher, like do that. If that's research on self-publishing, do that. Like just think about the next step and then take those next steps and that's success. Yeah, way to go.
She says we're making her cry. We love making people cry like that. It's our favorite. Oh, that's awesome. We're super proud of you. That is awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. Ooh,
Good
question about the emotional stacking. How do we get out of emotional stacking with our spouse, especially if one of the stacks has to do with bringing up personal progress?
Personal growth and development. Kind of like my exercise thing.
Yeah. Whoa.
It'll only
So,
take like 20 years.
that's the good news. Only 20 years. Just kidding. Just kidding.
So, well, let's analyze this, babe. Let's psychoanalyze how this happened.
Well, you want to bring in a couch and lay down? and
Yes,
start-
I'll lay on the couch.
We'll talk through.
Let's talk through it.
Tell me your stories. No, the reality is we have to make some shifts in our mindset. And man, the simplicity is you got to remove the stack. Can you see a balance? Can you see one of those old scales in your mind right now? See one of those old scales and they put all those weights on the one side and clonk. Right. And so this is how you're approaching your spouse. And so I think about her, I talk to her, and it's just like clonk.
And unfortunately, doing that just adds more.
Yeah. And every time I'm like, oh boy, oh, see, I'm just looking for evidence. So actually, I'm going to take ownership of this, first of all, and I'm going to try to remove the bad side, and I'm going to try to put in all kinds of wins on the other side. And I'm going to celebrate, big time celebrate, anytime there's small wins or small movements in the other direction, which I actually did that with her for a while.
Yeah.
When she'd come do something with me, oh, babe, thank you so much.
Well, no,
I
you
love
couldn't
that.
do it too much because then it was like.
Then she's like, I see what you're doing.
I see right. So it had to be an appropriate
Yeah.
celebration of like, this is fun, or
And-
this is great,
And
or like,
positive for her. So we get this question all the time. How can I get my spouse to want to travel with me? Or how can I get my spouse on board? How can we get a similar vision? And our advice has been for years of like, we'll find something kind of in that direction that you know your spouse would love to do.
And I think in some cases, like especially with the exercise thing or this whole idea of personal development, you almost have to find like a back door, right? Like another way to get at the thing without getting at the thing.
Yep.
So it's not about exercise. It's like, well, hey, you want to take a dance class? You
Yep.
want to go hiking? You want to, like, what do you want to do? Right? Type thing.
So
And then it's not about exercise. It's about, you know, what do you want to do?
Let
What are
me-
you interested in?
let me just share that. Epic fail right here. She's always loved dancing. And I've always been like, epic fail. Had I changed me and been super proactive about dancing with her,
It would have solved the exercise problem.
I could have
right then.
I could have gotten her into exercising years ago. Epic fail. So please, my friends, learn
Because
from
it-
my failure on
because
that
it
one.
wasn't about, and part of the problem was with the whole exercise thing is it kept coming up of you need to exercise, you need to exercise, you need to exercise, you need, to the point I'm like, stop already with the exercise, okay? And then when I did exercise, you need to do it harder and longer, and like, it was never good enough, right, to exercise, because here's Greg Denning's workout, guys. You don't even know, this man is insane. Insane. And when, as long as I felt like exercise was this, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. But when I had my own definition, when I finally, and then I had to go through this process, I'm just talking out loud. I had to go through this process of deconstructing what my stacks were,
Because
right?
she was stacked like this against exercise.
And that might be a conversation you bring up, is like, let's look at the issues here of why you don't like this. And no judgment, just let's talk about it. Let's look at this. Let's analyze, you know? And I didn't like to sweat. That was one of my things. I've had these unrealistic standards in my mind because I thought exercise had to be what Greg Denning was doing. And I'm like, I can't do that, right? So I had to deconstruct all of that and then rebuild a new identity for myself of like, because I guarantee your spouse, even though she's against personal progress or personal growth or personal development, she's not really. She just uses a different word to describe that. Maybe she's trying to be the best mom she can be, or maybe she's trying to be more spiritual, or maybe she's trying to, like, whatever. That's all of that is personal growth, but she's using different words to describe it, and she's attached certain meaning to these words. You might be talking about the same thing in your mind, but it's different because people they have different meaning and feeling behind different vocabulary words. So when we can understand that someone's using this word and it means this to them, and I'm using the same word and it means this to me, this is why we're fighting about it, is because we have different definitions for the same words or phrases. When we can find if we can find a different word or phrase that both represent the same thing to us, then that's kind of the backdoor way in, if that makes sense.
And let me throw this down. Ready? Oh, yeah. Great insight, Heather. She might be stuck in survival mode too, like we all do sometimes, and feel like self-improvement is selfish or time-consuming thing when she's already spent so
Yeah, and I think
so
I
true.
think that can be very true for moms. Self-improvement just feels like one more thing to do.
And I can't do it. So
And I've
actually,
already got so much to do. Like,
me helping with the load of kids and Rachel's task and loads, it actually freed up some time for her to be able to do that. That was the one strategy that worked. Okay, one more thought here. This is just good for your marriages. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this?
well, wait, I
Oh,
just
sorry.
want to, I was thinking
I'll
through
stop.
that a second. Sorry. That was partially true, but it really only worked once I was able to deconstruct and then identify my own motivations behind it, right? Because when you did it before, I was like, well, I still don't want to exercise because I'd rather do something else that I like doing. If you're going to take the kids, great. But I've got a list of other things I'd rather do, right? So I still had to identify my own motivations before I was willing to do the exercise. So again, it's just somehow you've got to get in there to what are the words she would use to describe this process? And what are the stacks she's got against the words you use?
What is it she truly wants that would tactfully, adroitly lead her to that progress?
Yeah. Does she want more free time?
And
Does
in
she
fact, I know in this particular instance, because I've talked to her, I know what she wants. And it is perfectly aligned with personal progress. So you've got to be tactful. And this is true for all of us. You find the thing that they want and approach it that way and be
Greg?
supportive and helpful. Yes, please go.
I heard a podcast once and it talked about wanting without needing, because when we need something, we base our happiness and our survival. But when we just want something, you're like, okay, well, if it happens, great. If not, great. And when we let go of that, the energy changes and it isn't so much of a fight or a judgment call. And so then they actually are drawn to what you want them to be drawn to, because the energy and there's a shift in that. And so they're feeling less conflict. Now, I'm not saying I'm really good at this yet, but I am working on it.
Yes.
No,
Thank
that
you. That's
right there is
beautiful.
perfect. And in fact, I
Beautiful.
think that would describe perfectly what happened with us. It changed for me from a need. I felt a need, like I had to work out in order to meet up to his standards or whatever it was, right? Instead of a want to.
And I felt a need and it created that energy.
Yeah. So it was totally this energy of conflict instead of switching it to this is what I want to do by focusing on what I want to do, right? You have to get deep in there. What does she want? And then the energy changes because it's pulling her towards that instead of kind of like trying to push from behind. Where that's often what it feels like. If personal development feels like this pushing, like you need to change, you need to be better, you're not good enough, you're not, if that's what it feels like, even if that's not what you're saying, but if that's what it feels like, oh, you want me to change because I'm not good enough, right? That she may never say that, but she may be feeling that subconsciously. If personal growth means I'm not good enough as I am, right? But if you can change the energy behind it of like, this is what I want, even if it's, I want to dance, right? And in order to do that, I need to be in better shape so I can dance. Then that's drawing me, it's pulling me in.
Boom. Is this hitting home for anybody else in their marriage and relationships?
Me?
Anybody? Anyone? Is anyone still awake? You guys are killing me here. Are you feeling this? Like in your interactions with your spouse and your kids and the energy you bring to them, and then the energy they're bringing back to you. Maybe some of you right now are feeling this negative energy from your spouse, or you've been guilty of portraying it. Whew.
And yeah, I love this that Evan put in here. Language is so powerful. Focusing on language has changed everything in my marriage. And that is so true. When you understand that I just say vocabulary. Different vocabulary has different meanings to people. Like when I realized that was a game changer, because then I could realize I could be using a word that maybe triggers them. For me, it could be totally neutral. But I use this word that triggers them, and it's like trouble. What?
I got to tell a funny story. Okay, so I'm going to, with my 4 older teens, we're going to Krav Maga classes. Those are like really intense, like Israeli martial arts self-defense stuff that's super, super violent, right? So it's really relevant, violent, intense martial arts. And it's just fun. It's just fun training. It's good exercise. We just love it. The instructor keeps using this word vulnerable. You want to find their vulnerability. You want to get them into a vulnerable spot. Like he's talking about like, get them into a vulnerable place so you can smash them. And then my teenage daughter hears from her friends, like, let's share something, a vulnerability. Let's be more vulnerable. And she's taking those words. And so last time on the way home, she stops, like we pull in the driveway. She's like, Dad, when people want me to share my vulnerabilities, I have a hard time with that. And I'm like, well, that just means you share something that you're struggling with. Yeah, but then people will attack me. And I'm like, what? And she just was, crossing that word. And it was meaning like, if I'm vulnerable, people are just going to take me out. Because that's what the instructor keeps saying. You got to be vulnerable. So I was like, whoa, okay, that we're attaching totally different meanings to this same word. And we had a pretty funny, interesting conversation about that. Okay, one last warning around that. We've got to be super careful, my friends, about not criticizing your spouse. Who here loves to be criticized by your spouse? This is one time when you can leave your hands down. No. And in fact, I would dare say the last person on earth you want to be criticized by is your spouse. And it's pretty easy, isn't it? Because of proximity, because of knowing each other so well and seeing the weaknesses and the flaws.
Knowing all those buttons.
And knowing all the buttons to push and all the triggers. It's easy to be critical. May I give you an invitation to all of us, myself included? Let's remove criticism from our relationships, especially from our marriage and our parenting. I think sometimes we think we're trying to do good, and maybe with the best of intentions, but man, it just creates some emotional stacking in the wrong direction.
And I would add this as well, because I think we should go a step further. Not only just remove the criticism, but I would be super intentional about, one, maybe physically making a list of the positive things. And then 2, noticing those positive things and saying something.
Yep.
I think one of the best ways, since we're talking about the energy, one of the best ways to switch the energy in your marriage, and in fact, I think if there was a catalyst, that might have been it. Greg got to the point where he just totally backed off. He stopped like pushing it. He stopped bringing it up. He stopped talking. He just accepted it. Now that may have been out of like desperation, like what else can I do?
I just sunk into the pit of despair. There was never hope again.
But he stopped, and it was like the pressure was gone. And I mean, we say all these things. Our marriage was great. We still had a great marriage, right? There was this thing, this thorn in our flesh. So he was complimenting, he was noticing the positive things, he was, saying nice positive things to me. And when that was removed, I didn't feel the pressure anymore. I didn't feel the need to work out, to be perfect by doing that one extra thing. right? So I think that totally switches the energy when you stop the criticizing and you start complimenting more. And you might be like, well, how do I notice good things about my spouse because they have nothing good about them, right? And one of our mentors said one time, like she went through this really tough time with her spouse where they were like, things were bad. And she decided that she was going to stop noticing the bad and she was going to stop criticizing the bad. And she said, well, he's good at breathing. Like that was the only thing she could think of. And she started there. She started with the one thing she could think of and she just kept adding to it. Oh, well, he's good at this. Oh, well, he's good at that. Right? Oh,
Good stuff. Okay, another question here. This is really good. Thanks. How do you remove criticism from parenting when it's a safety issue, like not looking when crossing the street? Awesome. Excellent question.
So
this is a tact thing. It's diplomacy, because we all have to teach our children things that need to be taught. And there's going to be safety things. There's going to be some serious things like this has to be taught and it has to be corrected. It's got to be drilled in where it's done well, it's done right. I wholeheartedly believe there's a way to get it done, even when it's serious and it needs to happen. There's a tactful, diplomatic way of doing it where the intensity and the seriousness is still there without the criticism.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a difference between criticizing and teaching. And that could include teaching with intensity. Like you can be intense with your kid as necessary without being mean, without being critical, without, tearing them down or other things like that. And it also means, if the need is there, if they're crossing the street and it's dangerous, Greg and I do this thing that we call it barking pretty much. You could get loud and you could like say something like, stop, you're barking at them to get their attention, but that doesn't mean you have to go into mean mad mode. As soon as you've got their attention, they're back, you could have them close and you're like, listen, it is very serious for you to do this. You need to know that you're in danger. And you teach them with intensity if you need, because sometimes that intensity needs to be there. You don't have to criticize.
So perhaps
it has nothing to do with their, intelligence or their worth or their, all of that.
Perhaps it's more of a feeling. So you can, if you need to raise your voice to get attention or something like that, especially in a safety issue, but remain calm and loving.
Or return to calm.
Have you ever, there's so many great like scenes in movies and there's so many great examples of like the child makes an innocent mistake, barely escapes real danger. And what does the parent do? Is me right here. Think about this. Makes a mistake, barely escapes danger, comes back.
Thinking?
What do you do? Instead of bringing them back, oh my goodness, I love you. I'm so good. You're so safe. Oh, I love you. Love you. Just love on them. And then say, hey, do you see what happened? Let's talk through this. Usually what happens is, oh, get over here, hug. And then, what's wrong with you? Why are you so dumb? Well, that you're an idiot. Ah! And so the explosion they get from a mistake, oh man, just
because
can create the wrong.
Well, what happens in
whole wrong scenario.
What usually happens in that case is, like I was saying, a difference between teaching and criticizing. What we really want them to learn is the lesson. Don't run in the street. That's what we want them to learn. But what they usually end up remembering is the criticism.
They remember when I make a mistake, man, my parent unloads on me.
They remember the intensity of how angry and upset you are and the things you said. That's what they end up remembering instead of, oh, gosh, I shouldn't run in the street because it's dangerous because of these reasons, because,
Okay, I got to share the story again. I know some of you heard this before. I got to share it because it fits perfectly. We're in Mongolia. So there I was. It was a beautiful sunshiny day. in the mountains, the remote mountains of Mongolia. And we drove these really cool Russian vans. They like drive everywhere, 4-wheel drive, awesome. We crossed all these rivers and we stopped right along this river. It was just stunning. The river was Tul, the river Tul, running through the mountains. And we stopped, we parked the vans there, put out the awning, and our guides made this amazing meal picnic. And we decided to jump in the river. It was cold, and we're just having this just perfect Mongolian afternoon experience. And we decided to skip some rocks. So we're all out skipping rocks on the water, just having a great time. And we're skipping them across the river into the woods. My son wades across the river and he's just playing over there. And then he decides to skip a rock back towards the shore. And so he skips a rock thinking, oh, this won't go very far. That baby skipped across the river, flew through the air. Luckily, people saw it and they ducked, so he didn't hurt anybody. And that sucker went right through the windshield of this Russian van. Boom, shattered it. Right? So here's my son. He's 13, strong lad, strapping young boy. And he just didn't think, and he skipped a rock and shattered the windshield of these wonderful Mongolian people, and they weren't wealthy people, that are guides, and so I had this instance of like, what do I do?
Now,
Do I reprimand him? Do I correct him? Do I yell?
Did he receive a consequence? Like, is that an immediate consequence for a choice? Does he immediately now know, oops, that was dumb, I shouldn't have done that? Yeah. He knows that.
And luckily, fortunately, as a parent, I saw that immediately, and I told myself, I do not need to say a word. I don't have to say a thing.
Now, and I want to throw this in too. I think this is part of the intuitive part of parenting. It may depend on the child. Some children, you might need to say something. With this kid specifically,
I don't have to say a thing. So what I did is I waded back across the river. I walked over to the driver. I was like, hey, how much is your windshield? He's like, oh, it's $100. And so I went back to my wallet. I grabbed a $100 bill and I'm like, you got a new windshield. And he had a couple other cracks and rocks and things. So I think he was pretty stoked. He got a new windshield. And I just went over to Kimball, just gave him a hug. Like, love you, buddy. You're good. It was an accident. No big deal. Man, that was the right way to handle that.
Because you understood the kid, you understood his own things that he's dealing with, and were intuitive enough to know that that was the right response. The lesson is learned. We don't have to feel like, as parents, that we always have to say something, that there always has to be some sort of consequence that we have to give. Our job is just to observe and to step in when necessary. Now, like with a young child, we need to step in and help them, but we need to say what we need to say and not more than that.
Yep.
And we need to do what we need to do, but not more.
Pro tip here. Pro tip. Often there are times to correct in the moment, and there are times to do some really tactful teaching the next day in your morning devotionals. You know what I'm talking about? You get what I'm saying here? Like, observe, and just the next day or a couple days later,
I think we're going to talk about
teach it very tactfully in the morning devotional. Teach the principle then. Love it. Love this stuff. Oh man. Okay. Let's just do one coaching thing. Anybody have a question, a challenge, a struggle? Let's just open it up. Anything you want to do. Let's do a coaching thing here before we wrap up. Anything at all? Any question, any concern, any struggle? This is your chance. Go for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you know when, how do I phrase this? How do you know when you haven't given something enough of a chance, like you've stuck in there long enough? And how do you know when it's like maybe not the right path and you need to move on? If that makes sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like you said earlier, you're really good at coming up with ideas, and part of success is being a finisher and what you start. But how do you know? Sometimes I feel like I get on a path of something and then maybe it just doesn't feel right. But I don't know if that's always just me because it starts to get hard, or me because it's not right.
Mhm.
Fantastic. That is such a great question. And I feel like both of us have experienced that many times in our journey.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would say that that is a normal part of the whole process. Like if you don't experience that, then something's off, because anything worth achieving is going to require that kind of challenge. And what I would say, Greg may have a different answer, but what I would say, and I talked about this before, actually a couple weeks ago when we had all these youth here for our backpacking trip, we talked about this very thing. I believe that the major thing that will determine whether or not you should still keep pushing forward or if you should quit is how badly you actually want that thing. If you push through and you get to the point where it starts to get hard and you realize, you know what, I really don't want this bad enough to go through all the work and all the pain, then that's when you quit. If you think about it and you realize, I really do want this. This is what I want. This matters to me so much. You get excited and passionate about it, then you keep pushing through. And for me, that's the answer. To me, there's no, and we talked about it in the context of like, well, what if that's not what God wants you to do, or this or that? And I said, I don't think that's how it works personally. I think there's infinite number of possibilities that you could pursue that God would be perfectly content with you pursuing. The major defining thing is whether or not you want it that bad, because all of it's going to require work and lots of hard work and consistency. And you have to be willing to push through that and want what's on the other side bad enough to make it worth it. And if it's not, then that's when you decide to quit. Because you decide it's just not worth it for me. I'd rather put that energy into something else that matters more to me.
And that's one of those times. This question comes up a lot when people are like, well, we're not quitters. Our family, we are not quitters. And if we get into something, we're going to finish it. And I always say, well, careful. There's a time to quit when you realize you're going down a path you don't want to stay on.
Which ultimately comes down to that inner calling. If you don't feel called to that thing, you might, and having an idea that you want to and pursuing it, that there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the journey of figuring out who you are and figuring out what your mission and calling is. You might pursue a lot of different things while you're discovering yourself. But if you go a certain way down the path and you end up realizing, no, this just is not what I really want, great, that's fine, quit.
And
then pick something else.
That's actually a really great experience to try a whole bunch of things, go down the path a little ways, and let's see what this is really like. Let's go over here and see what this is like. And I think I might like this. Go down there a little bit. Go down these paths a little bit. Try them. See where you're at, because that's that journey of self-discovery. I think as I work with a lot of different people in this kind of arena, I think the greatest problem and the greatest solution is having absolute clarity about who you want to be and how you want to do life. That makes those decisions so easy. When you have absolute clarity about who you are, how you treat other people, where you're going, how you're going to do life, when you know that, then it's easy to say yes or no. And it's easy to come back to what Rachel's asking, is the exchange rate worth it? Because every good thing has a big price tag on it. You're going to have to pay for it in work and effort and resources and time. And you have to see if it's worth it. I also, when I come back to it, I always ask myself like big existential questions. Is this a part of my identity? Do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life, or at least for a long time? Can I see myself doing that? And if it's a yes, it's like a resounding yes of like, yes, This is who I am. This is Greg Denning. This is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to do life. And this is really uncomfortable right now. I don't like it. It's going to be hard, but that's who I want to be. I'm going forward.
Mhm.
If I go, I don't know. I don't know so much. Like, I know I'm this. Was that a part of
I
it?
thought I wanted this, but I'm not so sure anymore.
I don't think
That's
I do.
when-
Then I'll ditch it.
Yeah. Because I like 100%, I believe this. No matter what it is, if you want it bad enough, you can get it, no matter what the obstacles are in the way. So then what you really have to ask yourself is that clarity question. Is this what I really want? And if so, you keep pushing forward, whatever it takes.
And so, you know what we love to do with this, Emily, this would be perfect. And I know Heather and maybe others are thinking about it. Take a pause. This is how we do it. We'll go camping, we'll go hiking, we'll go out to dinner on our day. We'll kind of break away and just kind of get away from it and just kind of decompress a little bit, have a pattern interrupt, and then be like, hey, let's reevaluate this. What is it we really want?
Mhm.
Like right here, what is this? And if we come out of that and say, yep, I still want it, then we recommit and we get back in the grind.
Yep.
So hopefully that's helpful there.
Or switch directions if necessary.
Yeah, you might have to pivot.
I feel like we took this 5-week trip to, we drove across the country and stuff. And that was kind of that period for me, where I was able to just reevaluate with our business, like, well, what do I really want to focus on? And I decided for me, part of my calling is education and trips. So that's where I'm putting more of my focus now is on the trips and the education. So again, it's just this process of like, okay, what do I really want? Who am I really? What am I really passionate about? And if that's it, I push through no matter what. And if it's not, I back off.
So my wonderful friends, do whatever you have to do to get clarity. Get clear about who you are and how you do life. As long as we're fuzzy, fuzziness in this aspect, clarity is a huge piece of my coaching courses and the whole package. Because when we lack clarity, when we lack uncertainty, or when we have uncertainty and we lack certainty, it leads to procrastination. It leads to irritability. It leads to self-doubt. It leads to stagnation. It leads to unhealthy patterns. It leads to a lack of productivity, self-sabotage. I mean, all of this stuff kind of gets in and gets crumbled up there in the chaos and the mayhem and the frustration. And the root cause of all of that is a lack of clarity. When you just are clear about who you are and how you want to do life, oh man, it makes those decisions so easy. That's how you know. Yeah. Go get it. Go get it, you guys. Okay. Heather's watching this from the motorhome. School's canceled tomorrow to work on revising. Nice. Yeah, love it. Somebody has a question about the 2-month study abroad Mexico trip. Awesome, Shannon. 19-year-olds, yeah.
Yeah, we're down with that.
We're down.
We're having our kids obviously are coming. And then our mentor, Devin, he's what?
22, 23. He's coming
yeah.
as well. So we have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. So that fits. Yep. We're just going to go have an absolutely extraordinary experience.
We're so excited.
Mexico.
How many years was it ago now? 9 years? 9 years ago, we drove through Mexico. We had a truck with a rooftop tent on the top. We were doing this Alaska to Argentina trip, which only ended up being Alaska to Panama so far. But we camped all through Mexico. We spent like 4 months camping in Mexico with our rooftop tent. We went to all these ruins and took all these pictures. So I collected this file of photos we're going to recreate, right? So go to like Teotihuacan and take a new family photo.
So like 9 years later and more kids, we're going to go back through.
And we're getting another rooftop tent.
Saturday. So Rachel and I are doing our overnighter. We're going up to Tennessee and pick up our new rooftop tent. And we're going to have another planning session, another fun overnight trip. And then we're getting ready for another big adventure. So you guys, do you have big adventures on your calendar? If you don't, get them on there.
Back to this idea of clarity. Like that was part of our whole thing when we went to Utah and took this trip that hold on, let me finish my thought.
Sorry, I got it.
Um,
The comment's funny.
We realized, I mean, we knew this already, but like that this is a major part of our life piece, our business piece, our like everything about us is, you know, adventure, doing trips. So we just have recommitted to doing more of them because why not? Anyways, we love them.
More adventures. Speaking of which, I just saw Anna. We need to come down and visit you guys. You're so close here in Georgia. We want to come down and visit your family. Do we have dates yet? We are
Oh,
leaving right after
holiday.
Christmas. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we would love it.
Yeah. We need to do that. Let's do it. Let's plan. We'll plan on the weekend. We're so close. Okay. Oh, and we'll have our rooftop tent so we can just come set it
That's
up.
right. Rooftop.
Southern Georgia.
So the Mexico dates are we're planning to cross the border like January 9th. And then we're gonna be in Mexico till March, like around March 10th or something. So yeah,
we're
pretty
gonna do
much
the
2
we're doing
months.
the full length of Mexico.
So
All
yeah.
of it.
But I'm thinking for people that would join, they would actually fly into either Monterrey or like Guanajuato is the plan instead of crossing the border with us, just in case.
In case they're like, who is this person crossing the border with you? Anyways, awesome stuff. Let's see, Emily, I tried to suggest to my daughter, and she said she's scared of Greg's idea of where to sleep.
What was that idea of where to sleep?
Oh, love it. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah,
Yes,
Emily.
you can
Yep,
come and
do
leave
it.
your
Just
kids.
say, hey guys, I'm going on a study abroad. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm going to Mexico. I'll send tacos. Yeah, right, Ava? Yeah. Come on. I'm like the safest guy in the world. We'll pick the coolest places to sleep. Mountains, beaches, waterfalls. There's only one time we picked a spot they had sand flies.
That was Belize.
And it was so bad we had to get up at 2:00 in the morning and leave.
Drive away.
Like it was so bad. That was northern Belize. Don't stay there, you guys. It's bad. Let's see.
Australia. Yeah, we've heard about Australia.
I know. I hope it opens up soon.
Get a rooftop
Oh my
tent. Drive around
goodness.
Australia.
Ouch. Okay, we'll let you guys go to bed or start your day, depending on where you are in the world. Love you so much. Sincerely, as I sit here and look at your faces and see your names and think about you, thanks for being wonderful human beings. Genuinely. Thanks for being awesome people. And thanks for raising great kids and striving. Thanks for being here. Like life is so good and can be so extraordinary. And just these little tweaks of being more intentional and deliberate, getting your
Which you're doing,
system set
though.
up. Yeah. Getting the habits
This
in
is
place.
Being here is part of that. So celebrate the success and say, yes, I came. I did it. I'm here. I'm awesome.
Woo! Celebrate, and then celebrate some more. Get up and win and celebrate some more. I had some way more stuff I want to talk about. We'll save
Oh,
it
and
for
we didn't
next
even
time.
talk about the psycho
I know.
health and mastery.
We'll do all this stuff next time. We have so much
Okay.
good stuff. Love you guys. You are the best. Nice. Yes. Yes, Miriam. Yes.
Celebrate. Things shifts after
Yes.
2 years. That's good.
Oh, so awesome.
That's how it works.
Love it. Always feel motivated. That's what we're here for, to motivate, excite you guys, make you think about crazy things,
Yeah.
see how crazy we are so you feel less crazy.
More or less crazy.
More or less crazy. All right. Love you guys. Have an absolutely fantastic night or day. Reach upward.